Your brother has a family to support. You're single. You'll figure it out. My father said this while dividing up his estate at the kitchen table where I'd eaten breakfast for 18 years. My mother nodded like he was reciting scripture. My brother Marcus smirked and squeezed his wife's hand. I said nothing. Because what do you say when your own family erases you from the future they're planning? That was 2 years ago. Last Thursday, my father's estate lawyer called me. Not to apologize. Not to say they'd reconsidered. He called because he needed help with a $200 million real estate merger, and every major firm in Chicago had recommended the same person. Me. When he Googled my name and saw, founding partner, Whitmore Capital, $2.1 billion portfolio, he dropped his coffee. Then he called my father. Then my father called my brother. Then my brother called his wife. Then all of them showed up at my office downtown, standing in my lobby like strangers waiting for permission to exist in my world. Me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how the daughter who got nothing became the woman who built everything. Me? My name is Simone Whitmore. I'm 34 years old, and I run one of the most successful real estate investment firms in the Midwest. We specialize in commercial acquisitions, urban redevelopment, and turning forgotten properties into gold mines. But 2 years ago, I was just the unmarried daughter who worked too much and visited too little. The one my parents introduced at church as Marcus's sister. The one who got a card on her birthday, sometimes, and a phone call on Christmas if someone remembered. Marcus was the golden child. Played football in high school. Married his college sweetheart. Had 2 kids by 30. Did everything in the exact order my parents expected. I got a finance degree. Then an MBA. Then a job at a commercial real estate firm where I worked 80-hour weeks while Marcus coached Little League and posted family photos that got 200 likes. My parents never asked about my work. Never asked about my deals. Never asked why I couldn't make it to Sunday dinner, again. They just assumed I was lonely and struggling, because that's what single women in their 30s must be. Right? The family meeting happened in October, 2 years ago. Dad had been diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but enough to make him think about the future. He gathered us in the living room, me, Marcus, Marcus's wife Brittany, and Mom. I've been thinking about how to divide things fairly, Dad said, shuffling papers like a CEO at a board meeting. Marcus has a family. Kids to put through college. A mortgage. Real responsibilities. I waited for my name. For my responsibilities. For any acknowledgement that I existed. Simone, you're single. No kids. No mortgage. You've always been independent. You'll figure it out. He said it like it was a compliment. Like being erased from the family legacy was a testament to my strength. So Marcus gets the house, the rental property, and 60% of the retirement accounts. Simone gets 40% of the retirement accounts. That should be fair. I did the math in my head. Marcus was getting approximately $890,000 in assets. I was getting roughly $120,000. My mother nodded. That makes sense. Marcus has the grandchildren to think about. Brittany smiled at me with something that looked like pity. Don't worry, Simone. When you finally settle down, things will be different. Marcus didn't even look at me. He was already texting someone, probably telling them about his windfall. I stood up. Okay. That was all I said. One word. Then I picked up my purse, walked to my car, and drove back to Chicago. 3 hours of silence. 3 hours of replaying every moment I'd been overlooked, underestimated, dismissed. By the time I got home, I'd made a decision. I was done waiting for my family to see me. I was going to build something so big they couldn't look away. I'd been working at Kessler Commercial Real Estate for 7 years. I was their top dealmaker. I'd closed more transactions than anyone in the company's history. But I was still an employee, still building someone else's empire. That Monday, I walked into my boss's office and resigned. Simone, you're making a mistake, Gerald Kessler said. You're 6 months away from making partner. I don't want to make partner, I said. I want to make history. I cashed out my 401k. Took the penalty. Used the $340,000 I'd saved over 7 years of living like a monk. Found 2 investors who believed in me, a retired developer named Eleanor Vance and a tech entrepreneur named David O'Yelleran who made his money in logistics software. Together, we launched Whitmore Capital with $4.2 million in initial funding. Our first deal was a condemned warehouse on the south side that everyone said was worthless. I saw something different. I saw 37 loft apartments, a rooftop garden, and a ground-floor restaurant space that would become one of the hottest brunch spots in the city. We bought it for $1.1 million. Renovated it for $3.8 million. Sold the units for a combined $14.2 million. That was deal number 1. By the end of year 1, we'd completed 11 acquisitions. By the end of year 2, our portfolio was worth $2.1 billion. We had 47 employees, offices in Chicago and Detroit, and a waiting list of investors trying to get in. I didn't tell my family any of this. When my mother called on Christmas, I said work was fine. When Marcus texted to ask if I was still doing that real estate thing, I said yes. When my father emailed to remind me that the inheritance documents needed my signature, I signed them without comment. I let them keep their image of me, the struggling single daughter who would figure it out. I had no interest in correcting them. The truth would reveal itself eventually. It revealed itself last Thursday. My assistant buzzed my office at 9 a.m. Ms. Whitmore, there's a Harold Pemberton online too. Says he's an estate attorney from Springfield. Needs counsel on a major real estate transaction. Pemberton. I knew that name. He was my father's lawyer. The one who drafted the inheritance documents I'd signed without protest. Put him through. Ms. Whitmore? His voice was professional, clipped. I'm Harold Pemberton. I represent several clients in Central Illinois, and I'm working on a complex commercial acquisition. Multiple referrals led me to your firm. I understand you specialize in urban redevelopment and mixed-use conversions. That's correct. Excellent. The deal involves a former manufacturing complex, about 340,000 square feet. The buyer wants to convert it into residential and retail space. It's a $200 million project, and frankly, it's beyond my expertise. I need a partner who understands the development side. Send me the details. We can schedule a consultation next week. Before I do, I like to research my partners. May I ask how you spell your last name? Whitmore. Whitmore. I heard typing. Then silence. A long silence. Ms. Whitmore. Simone Whitmore? Yes. From Springfield originally? Daughter of Raymond and Patricia Whitmore? That's me. More silence. I could almost hear his brain recalibrating. I'm looking at an article from Crane's Chicago Business. Whitmore Capital crosses $2 billion threshold, founder named to 40 under 40. That's you. It is. Ms. Whitmore, I need to call you back. The line went dead. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. The dominoes were starting to fall. 20 minutes later, my assistant buzzed again. Ms. Whitmore, there's a Raymond Whitmore on line 1. Says he's your father. He sounds upset. Tell him I'm in a meeting. I'll call back when I'm available. He says it's urgent. Everything is urgent to people who've never had to wait for anything. I didn't call back. Not that day. Not the next. On Saturday morning, I was reviewing contracts in my corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River, when security called up. Ms. Whitmore, there are 4 people in the lobby asking to see you. They say they're family. Raymond, Patricia, Marcus, and Brittany Whitmore. They'd driven 3 hours. Without calling. Without asking if I was available. Because that's what my family did, they showed up when they wanted something and expected the world to accommodate them. Send them up. I stayed behind my desk. Let them come to me. The elevator opened directly into my reception area, all glass and marble and modern art that cost more than my parents' house. My assistant offered them water. They refused, too busy staring at the view, the furniture, the framed magazine covers on the wall. When they walked into my office, my father stopped in the doorway like he'd hit an invisible wall. Simone? Dad? Mom? Marcus? Brittany? I nodded at each of them but didn't stand. This is a surprise. My mother's eyes were darting around the room, the original artwork, the Italian leather chairs, the antique globe that had belonged to a railroad baron. This is your office? It is. You own this company? Marcus asked. His voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Something between disbelief and accusation. I founded it. I run it. And yes, I own the majority stake. $2 billion. My father's voice cracked. Harold said your portfolio is worth $2 billion. 2.1, as of last quarter. We're projecting 2.6 by year end. Brittany sank into one of the chairs without asking. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years. When would I have told you, Brittany? At the family meeting where you told me not to worry because things would be different when I settled down? Or at Christmas when you asked if I was still doing that real estate thing like it was a hobby? Simone. My mother stepped forward. We didn't know. How could we have known? You could have asked. I stood now, walking to the window. The city sprawled below me, buildings I'd bought, developments I'd funded, neighborhoods I'd helped transform. In 2 years, not one of you asked a single question about my work. Not one. You assumed I was struggling because that fit the story you'd already written about me. My father cleared his throat. We need to talk about the inheritance. There it was. The real reason they'd come. What about it? Obviously, the situation has changed. We need to revisit the distribution. Make it more equitable. I laughed. Not a bitter laugh. A genuine one. More equitable? Dad, I've made more money this month than your entire estate is worth. I don't need your house. I don't need the rental property. I don't need anything from you. Marcus stepped forward. That's not the point. The point is fairness. Your family. You should get your share. Funny how fairness matters now. I turned to face him. 2 years ago, you sat at that table and smirked while Dad gave you everything. You didn't say a word. You didn't suggest we split things equally. You just took it. I have kids, Simone. I have responsibilities. And I had a company to build. Which I did. Without any help from any of you. My mother was crying now. Quiet tears rolling down her cheeks. Simone, please. We're sorry. We made a mistake. A mistake? I shook my head. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. What you did was a choice. You chose to see me as less than. You chose to value Marcus's life over mine. You chose to erase me from the family future because I didn't fit your picture of success. We didn't erase you, Mom. You introduced me at church as Marcus's sister for 20 years. You shared his photos in the family chat but never mine. You asked about his kids, his job, his marriage, and you asked me when I was going to settle down, like my life was a waiting room for something real to begin. The room fell silent. My father sat down heavily. For the first time, I noticed how old he looked. The Parkinson's had progressed. His hands trembled slightly. No. I was wrong, he said quietly. I was wrong about everything. I looked at you and saw a woman without a husband, without children, and I thought you were lost. I thought giving you money would just delay you from finding what really mattered. What really mattered? I repeated. Dad, I built $1 billion company. I employ 47 people. I've revitalized neighborhoods that were falling apart. I've created hundreds of housing units in a city that desperately needs them. That's what matters to me. That's always what mattered. I know that now. Do you? Or do you just know that I have money now, so suddenly I'm worth seeing? He flinched like I'd hit him. Marcus stood up. Look, Simone. I get it. We messed up. But we're here now. We want to make it right. Just tell us what you need. I walked back to my desk and sat down. I don't need anything from you, Marcus. That's what you're not understanding. I needed you 2 years ago. I needed someone to say, hey, wait, this isn't fair. I needed my brother to stand up for me. I needed my mother to see me. I needed my father to believe I was worth something even without a ring on my finger. We can't change the past, Brittany said softly. You can't. I opened my laptop. But I'm not interested in rewriting history or pretending we're something we're not. You came here because Harold Pemberton Googled me and suddenly I became worth knowing. That's not reconciliation. That's opportunism. My father stood. What do you want us to do, Simone? Beg? I want you to leave. And I want you to think about something on the drive home. I looked at each of them in turn. You had a daughter who was smart, driven, ambitious, and capable of extraordinary things. And you missed it. Not because I hid it, but because you never bothered to look. Nobody moved. My assistant will show you out. They left in silence. No arguments. No dramatic pleas. Just 4 people realizing that the person they dismissed had become someone they couldn't afford to ignore. That was 6 days ago. Yesterday, I got a letter from my father. Handwritten. 6 pages long. He wrote about watching me grow up, how I was always different from Marcus, quieter, more focused, always reading books about business and money while other kids played outside. He wrote about how scared that made him. Scared because he didn't understand me. Scared because he couldn't protect me from a world that seemed too big for a girl from Springfield. He wrote about the day I was born. How I came out screaming louder than Marcus. How the doctor said, this one's going to be a fighter. He wrote that he was sorry. Not for the inheritance, that was just money. He was sorry for not seeing me. For not asking. For letting his fear of not understanding me turn into indifference. He wrote that he didn't expect forgiveness. He just wanted me to know that he saw me now. Finally. Completely. I read that letter 3 times. Then I put it in my desk drawer next to the Crane S article and the 40 under 40 certificate. I haven't written back. Not yet. I don't know if I will. But something shifted when I read those words. Not forgiveness, that's too simple. More like, release. I'd spent 2 years building an empire partly fueled by the need to prove them wrong. Now that they'd finally seen me, I had to figure out what came next. This morning, I closed the biggest deal of my career, a $340 million acquisition of a waterfront development that will transform Chicago's South Side. My investors are thrilled. My team is celebrating. The mayor is issuing a press release. And I'm sitting in my corner office, looking at the city I've helped reshape, Thinking about a kitchen table in Springfield where a man once told me I'd figure it out. He was right about one thing. I did figure it out. Just not the way he expected. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Harold Pemberton. Ms. Whitmore, my clients are very interested in proceeding with the development project. Would you be available to meet next week? I smile and type back, send the details. My team will be in touch. Because that's what I do now. I build things. I transform things. I take what other people see as worthless and turn it into gold. Including myself. Dad said I got nothing. Turns out, nothing was exactly what I needed. It gave me the freedom to build everything.